latest endeavor is the Waterfront Brewery, which you had your first tasting.
I did. We did our first tasting. Yes.
Oh my!
Yeah.
It took 3 years to get this far. We're not open. It took 3 years.
I don't want you to answer this, but just there's a bug in my head thinking, it's taken them so long to open. I hope they're not paying rent on that damn place.
No comment.
Yeah, that's a good response.
No, the city's been a wonderful partner. They work together with us well.
Good. I know the previous people had to pay like 2 years in advance anyway when they broke their contract.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Broke their lease. Well,
you want to talk about?
When's it opening?
Yeah, let's talk about where it is.
Well,
that's the last thing you want to talk about.
Let's not talk about when it's opening.
It's all good, dude. I'll give you the spiel on it. The Waterfront Brewery. It was when I first moved here, I used to love shopping at the Waterfront Market, which this cat Bucko ran, who's an awesome dude and ran this awesome grocery store and distributorship. After a while, for whatever reason, he moved on his way, and that building laid open for a long time. I would ride by on my bike a little bit enhanced, and decided one day that would be a good place for a brewery. Applied for. I saw a for lease sign, and I called the city. They're like, "You have to apply for it." I was like, "Okay." So I'm a little OCD. So I did a 30-page presentation about why it should be a brewery, and I went to the meeting where they choose who gets it, and everybody else had done theirs in crayon. And I walked out with
64 colors,
which is pretty common in Key West.
Right. So I walked out with the rights to open a brewery there. I was like, "You gotta be kidding me!" And then the city worked with me really well, and I went through several groups of investors. It took due to the neighborhood associations and massive developers who do things in town. It took a little while to go through, and blah blah blah. Long story short, we passed, and at that time, my partner Joe Walsh came in to be the operator with me. He's the guy. He's a big restaurateur in town, and we've been building it for the past few months since. We were lucky enough to hire this cat named Justin Stein, who was the quality control guy at Cigar City and one of their brewers for many years, and he's won many awards for his beers and worked with everybody at Cigar City for years. I don't know if you know Cigar City.
Oh yeah, Cigar City is one of this show. Cigar City is one of our favorite brewers. Yeah,
I know you all do, but I don't know. But
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So Justin is like, when we hired him in the Florida beer world, that was like a big deal. So we've been waiting for our. We don't have our license to brew on the big system, so we've just been doing test batches in like a big his home system. And we did last week. We finally got to taste 2 beers that he made. He made a blonde ale with 4 different yeasts, and it was interesting to figure out which yeasts we ended up going with. And we also did a IPA, more of a sessionable IPA, a little bit more kick than like an all day. Kind of close to Hopsecutioner, possibly, or a 60-minute. And there was different. He did 4 different kind of hop choices. He dry hopped a couple, and then and messed around with that. So from that, we chose 2 of our beers that we're going to go with. And it was a British yeast for the first one, and I'm not prepared to. Y'all should have Justin on to talk about this.
We'll get.
But anywho, so we got to taste them.
Talk about it a little bit afterwards.
Yeah, did you talk to him? So,
No.
But that's where we got with our first 2 beers, and that was.
You want to talk about how he isolated the yeast strains at all?
He's been, and again, my knowledge of how it's done is very limited. I'm more the guy that puts it together. I'm not the brewer. I try and hire the best guy there is. But he's separated. He's doing local yeast. He's looking at he's growing all sorts of stuff now. I mean, you could probably explain it better than I can, Mark.
Yeah, from what he's told me, he's actually developed and isolated yeasts, pretty much from all over the world, but also some local ones, which are going to really develop very unique flavors to the beer, and that is probably the most exciting thing for me because, you can use hops, and hops grow in certain environments, and they all more or less taste exactly the same because where they're grown. I mean, one type Cascade is grown in certain places, and other stuff is grown in Germany, and blah blah blah, whatever. But the yeast is what's really unique, especially with these. So these Belgians
with
that
the
were
Saison Dupont.
Yeah, Saison Dupont, and the Omegang, which is actually a yeast from Belgium that was cultivated here in the States. So it's like a new world take on an old world yeast. So a lot of what he's doing is like that, and also cultivating yeasts here in the south of Florida, and especially in the Keys.
Some of the couple things also that he did were we have our signature beers that we're doing, which are kind of the more mainstream, whether it's a lager, a porter, a stout, a IPA, a blonde ale. But he was playing with some sours, and he did stuff off of Kermit came and brought over some key lime appeal, and he was pulling off of that and doing the sours, and we weren't able to taste it with it carbonated. It was straight out of the it wasn't ready. I think it just dropped. But playing with that was really cool because it was made from down the block.
That's really
and
awesome.
Then it was super cool because I was kind of naive to I knew a lot about hops. I didn't know a lot about yeast.
Yeah.
And to watch them even do the blonde ale with the same hops, the same cycle, and the same thing with 4 different yeasts, and the differences of it was really fascinating. And I feel kind of dumb not knowing how important that was to the taste of it.
Yeah.
So, but the sours with the key lime are cool. He was pulling some. We got some jackfruit, and we were looking at some. We're pulling some Spanish limes that we froze. He's pulling from.
Yeah. Cool. Cool.
I always screw the name up, Sapadilla.
Yeah.
They got a Sapadilla tree in their back.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So we're sending. Justin's going up to in November. Up to Homestead to go get a lot of those South Florida fruits that are real rare and weird and play with them. So kind of go raid. Robert is here, and then from there.
Well, that's cool. That's really cool. So we're talking about specific South Florida flavors here. Yeah. I'm Kevin Mark, and you're listening to Key West Beer Tales, the sum of all beers.
I had I do brewing. I haven't done it in a couple of years. I got to get back into it, but I made a Kolsch, and I used in a 5-gallon keg. I used one half of a key lime and squeezed it in there. It was perfect. It was just it wasn't really pronounced, but it was there, and it was perfect thirst quenching beer for the summertime. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what he comes up with because I'm just a hack as far as making beer. And here we're talking about a pro.
No, he's talented.
Now this brewery we're talking about is it a brewery, but it's more than a brewery.
Oh yeah. We got it'll have 2 restaurants in it. One is a pub, kind of more of a sports pub, kind of just chill, relaxed pub downstairs. You can see all the working of the brewery, and it's real relaxed. TVs with games on and whatnot, and then upstairs we have a view. It's on the upper deck of the Waterfront Market, and it overlooks the entire Bight, and it's probably the most gorgeous view of the city. And there's another 150-seat restaurant up there.
Wow.
It's a little more upscale. I wouldn't say like Louis upscale, more of like the Commodore with the Conch Farm. Not white tablecloth, so to speak.
Yeah.
But the view up there is spectacular. And then we also have a big game room, pool tables and stuff like that, shuffleboard, darts. And then our brew room, which is another 3,000 square feet, also doubles as a small concert venue. So we'll be able to do a whole bunch of fun stuff in the building.
That's outstanding.
Oh, yeah. Then we also built Justin a lab to cultivate the yeasts and do his thing. Yeah, it's a really cool big building with a lot of stuff to do.
Now, I was at a couple of the hearings. There's a lot of civil things that neighbors were being difficult about, and one of them, which I found was very ironic, was that there were people that were complaining about music that might be offending the neighborhood as far as just overall volume. And the irony is that to if you're looking at the water to your left, you have Schooner Wharf, which is playing music live, music till 11 o'clock or so. And then to the right, you have Turtle Crawls, who also on and off would have music. But you were just going to have just basically very quiet music, and people were all getting all bent out of shape about that. But
we didn't want to have a loud thing on the roof for what we were doing.
One of the things that I don't know if it's still on the agenda, and we can edit this out if it's not. But one of the things that you had on the agenda where you were talking about having individual speakers on the tables. Is that still on?
It's not on the table, so to speak. What we are talking about is an example of distributive sound to still have music and noise in high density neighborhoods, but instead of having large speakers blaring music to hit everywhere within the audience, we just have speakers that shoot out throughout all of it, so it's distributed. There's some companies that do it through the tables, some do it through the awnings that we have it, some pop up through our deck. We're not quite sure what we're doing. I believe it's going through the distributed around the deck in small speakers, but it's just making it so that you're sitting there and you don't have to blare something super loud for everyone to hear.
That's really cool.
Yeah, they do that a lot in New York. They do it in Miami, and hopefully Key West is catching up. There's a lot of bars that do have it now. So whatever you can do to make people happy and drink more beer.
There you go.
Awesome. Cheers.
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 Mark, what do we have here? The last beer was marvelous. This is magnificent. What is it?
So this is from Omen Gang. This is their new Game of Thrones, which is released last week or the week and a half ago.
Yeah. Not any further than that.
So this is a Valar Malagus.
Valar Malagus.
Which is they're double, but it's a red double. It's I would assume most akin to a Flemish red, which is why I kind of chose the third beer.
Valar Malagus.
Yeah.
It's better than Fire and Blood.
Yeah, it's better than Fire and Blood, which was their last one from last year, which was, for me, and I guess for everyone else, well, at least the three, Chris, Ream, Dave Sr., myself, we all tried that on the original beer show.
Yeah.
And we were all kind of like, meh! And it was a good beer, but, you get so accustomed to drinking great beers. When you have a good beer, it's like, okay, But for me, this was a step up. So this is inspired by deep insights to Belgian. The word is Belgian, not Delgian.
Give him another beer.
Belgian beers and infused with Omegang's creative upstate New York.
Omegang's from the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Cooperstown, yeah.
Right,
So, it's apparently inspired by upstate New York, which
they also
means
put
literally
they also put dark sugar candy in there.
yes,
Amazing.
which gives it the color.
Which is it's also a Belgian tradition for certain types of beers.
It's a very deep color.
That's what they specialize
Which
in.
brings me another question
Yeah.
on the Waterfront Brewery, actually. I'm assuming you're going to have more beers than what you brew. Bottles, drafts.
Yeah.
It's not just going to be...
No, we're going to have seven of our standard beers, and we'll do another probably rotating 5 to 6, and then we'll also focus on a lot of Florida beers. I think we'll probably try and stay with a lot of our sister companies that we deal with: Cycle Brewing, Wynwood, Cigar City, Saint Somewhere.
Buddha?
What's that?
Funky Buddha.
Oh yeah, Funky Buddha. How did I forget about Funky Buddha? Dang. PB&J, man.
Yeah, PB&J.
PB&J, and there's a ton space, and there's 3 opening every week in Florida.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So
Well, here's
which
another.
is real fascinating. If you're ever in St. Pete, to see sometimes in order to see great change, you have to not be around for a while because you don't see it moving incrementally. But I went up to St. Pete and to see all the people from Cigar City that have left.
Yes.
To work there and
Yeah,
now make breweries. St. Petersburg is probably one of the best collections of breweries in the country. At the moment.
Wow.
You could go Green Bench, Three Daughters, Cycle, all within 3 blocks. Cigar City, and that's all I can name at the top of my head. There's probably 5 that I'm missing. So
Yeah, and they're like you said, they're all former employees.
they're all former employees of Cigar City. Justin Stein is from Cigar City.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, we'll focus a lot on Florida's because we try and stay local and keep it like that, and then that's our plan. So,
Chris, in your longer term, I just have a quick question. I know it's a different license that you require, and maybe you're looking at it, maybe you're not. But are there possibilities that you'll be selling beer to different establishments in town, or do you? Right now, of course, your license is just going to be for yourself, I would imagine.
Right, we have several addresses, and we will be distributing to other people.
Excellent, fabulous.
Yeah, that's great news, actually.
Yeah,
That is
So,
great news.
I'm happy to hear that.
Cheers.
So, hey, let's all take a big sip of